This video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Imagine two people standing on a track, ready to run the race of their lives. The runner starts with a pair of professional-grade sneakers, a clear map of the course, and a coach whispering strategy in their ear. They know exactly how to pace themselves, when to conserve energy, and how to navigate the hurdles ahead. The second runner is barefoot, blindfolded to the path, and has never even seen a map of the track. This isn't just a metaphor for life. It is the reality of our global financial landscape. We often talk about the gap between the wealthy and the struggling as a matter of luck or sheer grit. But there is a much quieter, more insidious force at work. Here is the number that should stop you in your tracks. 2/3 of the entire world is financially illiterate. That means for every 3 people you pass on the street, 2 of them are effectively navigating a complex, high-stakes game without ever being taught the rules. They are expected to manage credit, navigate inflation, and plan for a future they cannot see, all while lacking the basic vocabulary to describe the tools they are using. But in reality, it is the single biggest hidden barrier to human freedom. You are subject to the tides of the economy rather than someone who knows how to swim through them. This inequality isn't just about who has more, it's about who has the power to make choices. But how did we get here? To understand why this matters for every single one of us, we have to pull back the curtain on the institutions that shaped our collective ignorance. Think about the language we use to describe money. But money isn't a force of nature. And for centuries, this particular language has been written exclusively by and for a small circle of architects. If you weren't born with the map already in your hands, you were expected to wander through the corridors, hoping you wouldn't hit a dead end. We've been conditioned to believe that if you don't understand how the system works, it's a personal failing, a lack of interest, or perhaps just a lack of talent. But that's a dangerous myth. Consider the invention of the printing press. Knowledge was a tool of control. Financial literacy is the modern equivalent of that revolution. It is about basic survival. When you navigate the world without the ability to decode the mechanics of interest, debt, and value, you aren't just missing out on an opportunity, you are walking through a thunderstorm without an umbrella. To call this a human right is to acknowledge a simple truth. If our society is built on a foundation of currency, then the ability to understand that currency is as vital as the ability to read a map or understand the law. Without it, you aren't participating in the economy. You are merely being acted upon by it. If we continue to keep the inner workings of wealth hidden behind a veil of jargon and exclusivity, we aren't just limiting individual potential. We are stifling the collective progress of an entire generation. It isn't just a lack of information that holds us back. It's the way the information is intentionally guarded. Imagine, for a moment, that your entire financial life is contained within a single, translucent bucket. Every dollar you earn, save, or invest is a drop of water filling that vessel. It's suspended in a complex, interconnected web of pipes. This is your labor, your expertise, and the time you trade for currency. You'll notice tiny, almost imperceptible pinpricks in the material. It isn't a sudden disaster. It's a slow, persistent leak. If you leave your water sitting stagnant, the bucket eventually runs dry, regardless of how much you poured in at the start. Some of these lines represent debt, a mechanism designed to siphon value from your bucket to someone else's. Conversely, assets act as a secondary reservoir. You are moving your water into a different kind of container, one that doesn't just hold value, but expands. Most people are taught to focus entirely on the input, the faucet at the top. But if your bucket is riddled with holes and your pipes are leaking into the wrong reservoirs, no amount of incoming water will ever be enough. We are sent into this high-pressure environment without a map of the plumbing. If we want to democratize prosperity, we have to pull back the curtain on this architecture. Once you understand the flow where the value goes, how the pressure builds, and why the leaks are there, you stop being a passive recipient of the system and start becoming the architect of your own ecosystem. Imagine standing at the peak of a snow-covered mountain. It's light, manageable, and almost insignificant. At first, the movement is slow, almost imperceptible. With every single rotation, the surface area grows, and because it's larger, it gathers even more snow on the next pass. This is the silent, invisible engine of wealth. When you invest, you aren't just setting money aside, you are buying time. If you leave $1 sitting under a mattress, it remains $1. But if you place that same dollar into a vehicle that captures the growth of the global economy, it begins to replicate. It's easy to dismiss this when you're young or when your resources feel thin. The snowball doesn't need to be massive at the top of the hill, it just needs to be in motion. You realize that a small sacrifice today, skipping an unnecessary purchase or automating a modest contribution, is actually a massive gift sent forward in time. This is the lever that moves the world. It is the difference between running on a treadmill that someone else controls and stepping off to build your own path. While the math is universal, the access to these tools is often deliberately obscured. Behind the curtain of interest rates and market volatility, there are forces that benefit when you don't ask questions. But the gatekeepers aren't just selling complex financial products. They are selling a lifestyle built on the architecture of your own insecurity. Every social media feed is a curated gallery of things you don't have, designed to trigger a quiet, nagging feeling that you are somehow falling behind. It's a subtle psychological game. This is where the trap snaps shut. We are conditioned to equate spending with success, and when that spending inevitably leads to debt, we are left with something far heavier than just a balance sheet. We are left with shame. It keeps you from opening your bank statements, from talking to your partner about the future, or from seeking the advice that could actually turn the tide. It convinces you that your struggles are a personal, moral failing, rather than the result of a system intentionally designed to keep you in survival mode. The faster you run to keep up with the expectations of a consumerist culture, the less energy you have to stop, look down, and realize you aren't actually going anywhere. Staying in that cycle of survival is comfortable for the status quo. They want your decisions driven by the fear of missing out or the anxiety of being perceived as less than. But the moment you decide to understand the mechanics of your own money, you aren't just balancing a budget, you are staging a quiet, radical act of defiance. Breaking free from this cycle is about reclaiming your agency. When you choose to educate yourself, you are essentially telling the architects of your debt that you are no longer a passive participant in their design. You are stripping away the power of their marketing, their jargon, and their manufactured urgency. When you remove the shame, you gain the clarity to see the system for what it is. But even when you shed the weight of social pressure, you're still faced with a landscape designed to be opaque, one where the rules of the game are often hidden in plain sight. This isn't just about balancing a checkbook or decoding the fine print of a contract. It is about reclaiming the agency that has been systematically stripped away. When we treat financial literacy as a fundamental human right rather than a luxury for the privileged, we dismantle the barriers to collective freedom. But the tide is turning. By choosing to educate ourselves, we aren't just improving our personal balance sheets, we are actively participating in a quiet, necessary revolution. Start small. Audit your subscriptions, track the flow of your capital for 30 days, and commit to reading one book on economic history or personal investment this month. These aren't chores, they are acts of defiance against a narrative that tells you money is something that happens to you, rather than a tool you command. Look at your debt not as a life sentence, but as a puzzle to be solved. Reach out to your community, share what you've learned, and turn this solitary pursuit into a shared awakening. Imagine a generation that views interest rates, tax structures, and market cycles with the same fluency as their native language. This is the future we are building, a landscape where the opaque is made transparent and the complex is rendered simple. You are no longer a passenger in an economy designed to leave you behind. You are the architect of your own stability, the guardian of your own time, and the master of your own destiny. Keep questioning, keep digging, and never settle for being a spectator in your own life. If this perspective sparked a shift in how you view your own path, consider passing this message forward to someone who needs to hear it. The landscape is changing, and you are finally ready to navigate it.